It's Nerd Without Pants. It's the end of E3. I've had a hell of a week. I'm tired. Angela didn't even want to make it. Patrick's off doing who knows what. So I had to really dig deep into the Pixel Bit archive to find some people to be on this show with me. So I've resurrected Jesse Miller, our features editor.
Resurrected is probably the best term for that.
Just threw a Phoenix down out there.
Absolutely, yeah. Pleasure to be here, Julian. And in keeping with it, I am not wearing any pants.
That's the way it's done. Also not wearing pants is our site director, Nick DeMola.
That's right. It's actually very freeing, believe it or not. It's very comfortable. And what Julian was trying to say when he reaches into the archives, he was trying to say, I'm scraping the bottom of the barrel. I needed someone.
I threw the request out on Twitter, and thankfully I was answered because I thought, and this is, I thought we were going to be done with 2, but then I thought, no, I've still got some more stuff to say, but I need some fresh people in there too, otherwise it's going to be a rehash of the last 2 episodes. But, and yeah, it's been a long time since we have podcasted together. I think it's been since E3 2012, so it's been like a full 2 years since we've been on the show together, and then
Pixel Talk for me and you, Julian, that's probably been before that. I don't think we did any of the E3 stuff together last year.
Not last year, but like the year before.
Maybe the year before, yeah.
And and this is both of y'all's first appearance on Nerds Without Pants. So glad to have you.
Wow.
Yeah. Almost 50 episodes in.
We were totally the last people you asked, wasn't it? It was you asked everybody.
No, well,
people that were like, yeah, sure.
You were the first people outside of the normal crew because Angela just couldn't make it, and neither could Patrick. And I had asked Erica Sabo earlier in the week, but she's hella busy all the time. We have to kind of schedule her months in advance, especially now that she's with Screw Attack. So she's super busy. Yeah,
that's crazy.
Yeah.
Hey, good for her.
Oh yeah, it's kind of cool to see. It's every time that I have her and John Golson on, it's their stars have risen a little bit more. Pretty soon I won't be able to book them anymore.
That'll be it, yeah.
Nerds Without Pants. What?
Yeah, you're so 2 years ago. But no, and I'm glad to have you guys here because I've still got stuff to say about E3. It's not all positive. In fact, it's not really a lot positive because it's E3, more like Z3 for me.
Oh, ouch. Wow.
But
I actually thought E3 was better this year than last year. I liked it quite a bit more.
Wow, I thought last year it was I had to change my shorts 3 times during those press conferences. I just couldn't believe it was bomb after bomb after bomb, and then the Sony thing was just it was like a nuclear explosion. I couldn't believe it.
Yeah, I remember
it was
Sony.
Stunning. It was a stunning show. But...
Yeah.
This one was more games, but I think the problem was, and because E3 for me has always been well, here's what's coming out till the end of the year, and then here's a handful of things that are coming out next year. But this year was you're just going to play this all in 2015, maybe.
Yeah. That was the biggest disappointment.
That was the biggest thing, yeah. For me coming into this, I'm all right, I was looking for the reasons to, sell me on a PS4 or an X1 this year, and I left that show thinking, all right, I will kind of do want to buy one in 2015 when all the games come out, and even Nintendo showing was, and I think Nintendo probably had one of the better showings. In terms of, I like their presentation. A lot of their games I thought were more interesting. There's a lot of new concepts in there that I liked, but a lot of that stuff too was even 2015. And I was didn't we? that was supposed to be what last year's was like, okay, here's the systems, here's the things we have coming out, next year's going to be awesome. And then I feel like this year's been such a letdown as a result. I
was thinking about it today. I think that for me, till the end of the year, there's 3 games that I'm interested in, and only one of them is like a must-have, like can't wait for it, which would be Dragon Age. And then it's like I could play Destiny, it sounds kind of cool, and I could play Shadows of Mordor because it sounds kind of cool, but I could probably also just leave them on the shelf.
You could, and in those games, especially like games like Destiny has that crazy 10-year plan. You don't have to jump in on the ground floor of that. You can catch up. So it's not a game that you're going to go out and buy a system for.
Right.
It's something that, because I'm kind of intrigued by that too, but with a game like that, it's like, okay, let everyone else test it out, see how it works out, flesh out all the bugs, get that taken in, and then I'll jump in later. And yeah, like you said, handful of games I'm looking forward to Smash Brothers at the end of the year. Bayonetta 2, I am looking forward to. And that's about it.
Captain Toad, man. Captain Toad.
Yeah, I gotta say Captain Toad.
I am actually excited
for
about
Captain Toad.
But that better be a $20 game, though. I'll be pissed if that ends up like at full $60.
Unless they do something awesome. Be.
I know it'll be.
They're gonna ring you for every dollar they can get. You know it.
Yeah, I'd say for me, for Nintendo, other than like Bayonetta, which I kind of can't count that because Nintendo's so first party focused. Like I really came away from their presentation the most excited about Captain Toad and Splatoon.
Splatoon, that was definitely. Yeah, that one looked. I was very surprised by that.
Yeah, and Zelda. Zelda looks great. It's just, and like I said on the Nintendo special or the Nintendo part of the E3 podcast, is that I just don't think that that's a game, and I don't think that's coming out in 2015.
No, it's going.
Of course not. They should be showing holiday 2016 games in 2014.
That's what they're doing. Yeah, because that'll be they'll say holiday 2015, and then it'll get pushed back until like spring, and then it'll be fall, and then it'll be Christmas time 2016 by the time Zelda comes out.
Yeah, because you got to think it's like Nintendo's been staying the course for so many years, and now we're asking them to do an open world HD Zelda game.
Yep.
Like all in one shot. Like just think about that for a few minutes.
I know. Well, it makes it the people that asked for Skyrim meets Zelda looks like they might be getting a little bit of what they wanted in that instance, because looks like it will be more open world and everything like that, but who knows? And like you said, that's 2016 game, easy. No way that's coming out. I wonder what the over/under is on that, because I'd go down to Vegas and put some money on that game not coming out in 2015. You'd make some coin though if it did.
Yeah, and I'm trying to think, like, when was the last time that a Zelda game actually came out on time? Was it
the first one?
Was it
the latest one, right? A Link Between Worlds got turned over super fast.
Oh, well, I was thinking more like the console ones, yeah.
That's true.
Yeah, well, the console ones, have any of them ever been delivered on time? I don't think so.
Maybe 3? Maybe Zelda 3?
Maybe. That would only be my ignorance of not knowing how long
it was actually in development for. Back then, we had no idea, yeah.
Well, yeah, and there was also not really a thing about release dates back then, so...
it was Nintendo Power.
Yeah. But, so I guess as we're going to try to, like, kind of keep it a little concise so I can get this up tonight. But, you guys haven't been on the show, and I haven't really had a chance to talk to you, like, in any of the social media avenues as far as what you've thought so far. So I would like to get your impressions of the overall show and maybe some standouts from each of you. Since I've kind of already spoken a lot about that.
Yeah, my impressions of the show I said this a lot last year, if anyone remembers, if anyone wants to go back to the archives and listen to my crankety old voice back then. This, I think, I'm still seeing where I'm wondering what the point of E3 is these days. And I think seeing Nintendo's very much shorter, abbreviated, but very tight presentation, that was a slightly extended, or even just a normal length Nintendo Direct that happened to fall in the month of June. I didn't see anything in there that that really blew my socks off. There was nothing that was revealed that was even Zelda. There's nothing that was revealed that really kind of like was a show stealer or anything that really surprised. I don't know why they revealed games way too early, and I think that's something that's a problem with the industry in general. I don't want to know necessarily what's coming out in 2015. I want to know what's coming out at the end of this year, or maybe a glimpse of 1 or 2 games that will come out early next year. But hey, look, Uncharted 4 gets revealed. Whoop-de-doo. I knew that was coming. And you showed me 20 seconds.
But they said that was coming, and then they gave us CGI. What the hell?
If you give us they said that's an engine, and
Sure, okay, whatever.
I tend to believe that that's probably that is an engine, but it's way directed, cutscene.
Yeah, I mean, I was only half paying attention to that reveal, but I did feel that it was probably an engine. But that doesn't really mean anything either, because it was in engine, but it was like one character in a in a jungle setting. So it's like once you start throwing in enemies and other characters and a HUD and player input, like that totally changes the scenario.
And we know that's going to be pretty. It's a Naughty Dog game. Naughty Dog makes pretty games. I mean, The Last of Us is a very pretty game. But I mean, that didn't show me anything. I'm like, this is stuff that we all knew was coming out. Halo, none of that stuff surprised me. Crackdown, they kind of already announced that was something that would be coming anyways, that for Microsoft. There was nothing there that really... I think one of the biggest surprising reveals to me was actually Splatoon, which you mentioned that one, Julian, because that was such a out of left field, hey, this is brand new IP we're going to talk about for a good 10 minutes during Nintendo's presentation for a shooter, an online-only game, which was kind of just bizarre. I wouldn't say it's the game of show or anything like that. Nothing, wouldn't go that far, but it was one of those more surprising reveals, at least from a Nintendo perspective. But yeah, I didn't see anything that was really like, shock, everything's already been announced, and especially with more annualized games, nothing becomes, I think the game that impressed me the most, and because I hadn't seen a lot of it, was No Man's Sky. Just based on the concept alone, I don't know how much of a game is there, but I think that was the one that actually piqued my interest the most. That out of everything that was shown.
That's definitely been the one where I think, I wasn't really that impressed with it, but that's the one. It's been interesting this week to hear the narrative, because it's been like, what I've seen is everybody's been like, holy crap, No Man's Sky, and then a couple days later they're like, but what do you do?
Exactly. Yeah.
That's my question. Same thing. It seems cool. What do you do with it?
What was that, Jesse? I'm sorry.
I just saw dinosaurs and I was excited. So I mean,
that
could have been nothing, and I was like, dinosaurs! I want this game now. And I had one of those reactions. I looked at that and I'm like, oh, it's cool. And I still have that kind of like, well, there's a lot of things that you could possibly do, and it kind of reminds me of the original thoughts on Fable. If anyone remembers when Fable was first revealed, it was like, you're going to be able to do all this stuff, and then when the game comes out, it ends up, okay, you can't really do any of that. This kind of makes me wonder if it's the same thing, because the trailer was very limiting in what you showed. Okay, it showed me some blasting some shit in space. It showed me seeing dinosaurs, which is cool, and flying around and stuff. And that part of it looked interesting, but what's going to keep me focused? What's going to actually keep me wanting to explore? And I wasn't sure what that was, the more I think about it. So that's a game that I think could be very interesting, could be an amazing experience, or it could be one of those this is just a slightly novel idea that, is interesting for a little bit, but ultimately you turn it away, you don't remember it.
Yeah, and actually, as you talk about it, I'm wondering if maybe it's just that we're not the audience for it, because I'm thinking that, if I was back in high school and I just had, all summer to just, explore No Man's Sky, maybe that would be, a revelatory experience, but as it is, I'm like, I don't have time for something that says it's infinite.
Yeah. What'll be interesting is what people end up doing, how the community reacts with each other, because I'm wondering what the interactions are going to be. Can I shoot someone else out of the sky? Can I fuck somebody's world up?
Yeah, because
that's the kind of thing that I think as a social experiment, the game is very interesting. But if all I can do is shoot stuff and see stuff, I don't know if there's enough to it. At least with Minecraft, you're doing a lot of things. You're seeing stuff, you're shooting stuff, you're building something, and you're exploring. And that's a very simplistic concept, but it works. This, I only see a couple of those aspects, exploration and shooting shit. And I don't know if that necessarily translates to full game experience kind of thing.
Right. Like, I loved hearing people tell stories about their experiences in Rust. I would never want to play Rust, but like that's kind of the vibe I get from No Man's Sky as well.
I hear you.
So, and that could be cool. Like, I'll listen to people on podcasts talk about all the really effed up stuff that they did to other players, but it's like, it's not going to be for me. So, Nick, what about you? Like thoughts? I mean, you kind of blew my mind before we started recording, because I've been very down on this show, like very let down on this show, and you were like, oh, I thought it was way better than last year.
Yeah, so last year was like a big fight between Microsoft and Sony, and that was kind of funny to see. Like, for a moment in time, it was like, wow, this is the craziest thing I've seen in gaming in a long, long time, and it's memorable for that reason. But when I think about, well, what else happened in that show? What did I see? Like, what was it that I was looking forward to after that? It was nothing, and if I look at 2014 so far and what's coming up, there's nothing there either, because they really didn't have anything to show. So last year was like kind of cool in terms of like, knockdown, drag out fight between Microsoft and Sony, and Nintendo piloting this new thing that kind of, I don't think really worked out last year. And then you come to this year and I feel like the whole thing's very different, so the entire Microsoft strategy around the Xbox One from last year to this year is like a total 180. I mean, you're talking about a completely different platform than what we saw last year. Kinect is dead. The whole TV thing has kind of flopped, I guess. I've heard that it's a great feature, but for E3 they just completely pretended it didn't exist. So you saw Microsoft kind of hit the ground running, and all they showed were, game after game after game. So like, I think they opened on Forza Horizon 2. So I don't know how much you guys are into the racing scene, but Forza Horizon was awesome. So to see a sequel to that, even though I heard about it before the show started, it was like, okay, that's cool. I'm into that. Crackdown 3, I love Crackdown. So to see another one was great. Platinum Games is going to do a game for the Xbox One, Scalebound, I think it was called. So They didn't show any gameplay of that, and that was a big bummer this year. Most of the stuff they showed was just, here's a little either in-game cutscene or CGI or whatever. So that was a little bit of a letdown, but I was pumped to see something from Platinum. I don't know how that company actually continues to stay in business. It seems like people just want to give them money to make games that they won't make money back on, but I'm okay with that as long as I get to play them. So, that was good. I'm trying to think what else Microsoft had that was
What is that game about? Just to kind of pause on Scalebound, because the first thing I saw was that when I saw that, I was like, okay, there's a douchier version looking of Dante wearing headphones in a fight. And I was like, I have no idea what even kind this. I mean, it's Platinum Game. I assume it's going to be crazy action game, just based off of their track record of making crazy action games. But
exactly.
I couldn't tell. Like, then there were dragons, and then there was like dance fighting. It looked like maybe for a second, and then I had no idea what the hell was going on, and it kind of brought something to my mind. And while I was watching that, is that now that kind of graphics have really caught up with CG. I mean, it's still obviously there's still a disconnect there. Haven't we grown beyond the point of showing off stupid 30-second trailers of games or totally pre-rendered cutscenes and stuff of games? I want to see something that actually looks like it could be gameplay on a more consistent basis. I find that I myself am no longer impressed by that shit. Like the old Final Fantasy reveals used to be like that. They used to be the Final Fantasy reveals used to be just nothing but the CG trailers, and that was impressive back then. Now you show me that, and I'm like, I don't care. I mean, who knows? I don't know what the game's going to be like. Anyone can do that.
Sure, but you've been through it, man. You've seen it 100 times at this point,
yeah.
So you know that they're just pulling the wool over your eyes.
No, it's just bullshit.
Exactly. So but if you think about like a 15-year-old kid, they're probably like, dude, this looks awesome. Like they're not really
15-year-olds are retarded.
That's the point, man.
Well, I mean, I'm glad you brought that up, Jesse, because
Yes.
I kind of feel like Solid Snake, where after the show I was just like, E3 has changed, and it has. It's honestly changed, and it's like
it has.
And a lot of people have been saying like, well, do we need E3 anymore? Because like all these developers and publishers can talk about their games anytime that they want. Really, they can do a Twitch stream. They can do like their own like Nintendo Direct type thing.
Yep.
There's also PAX. There's also Gamescom. But I think that the industry needs E3, and I think I need E3 as a gamer. But it's time for them to change what E3 is. And my thing is like, by all means, do your 30-second CG trailers. Like, set the tone for me of what you're trying to do, but show that to me like in March. And then come E3, just show me the game.
That I can get something behind that, like the teaser up to E3, because, and here's the biggest thing why I think that E3 is totally irrelevant at this point. Maybe not totally irrelevant, but mostly irrelevant. Because in the age of the internet, like I said, none of us were surprised by anything that came out, really. I mean, like I said, the most surprising thing for me was maybe a couple of Nintendo announcements, because they're usually pretty closed off in terms of announcements. Captain Toad's game was kind of a surprise. Splatoon was a surprise. Project Steam, no one fucking saw that one coming. Even Star Fox, but that got leaked. The thing is, yeah, see, I mean, actually, Nintendo probably had the most surprising reveals, but nothing out there. I mean, we'd either heard of it, it's already been previously announced, it got leaked weeks before. If we did something where they kind of like, this is what we're going to show at E3, but we're going to show much more of it at E3, then I could get behind E3 as a concept. E3 needs to change more, because we're beyond that point. When we all read our news in print magazines and we didn't have the access to the internet instantly, where it would be like once a year we're going to just dump a whole lot of awesome into your lap. And
I miss those days.
Yeah, those days were great, because you'd be like, oh, E3, and every single announcement was like great, there's all this stuff coming out. And now it's like, I already heard of it, seen a shit ton of this game, already heard of it. Oh, that one's new, already heard of it.
There's so much annualization. I think that's the big thing. Is like, you're seeing the same games every single year. Like, every year you're gonna see Assassin's Creed, you're gonna see Call of Duty, you're gonna see Battlefield, you're gonna see, like, it's that kind of stuff.
Battlefield
becomes draining.
That Battlefield game, I just wanted to go, who at EA thought that was a good idea? Had to have been their marketing department, because those guys never make bad decisions.
Well, it also, I mean, I was a big like John Riccitiello fan, and I thought that he did some really good stuff while he was there. And then to see like this be the first E3 after he's gone is like, see, I told you guys. I told you, didn't I tell you? But no, and let me. Oh, go ahead, Nick.
No, go ahead.
Oh, well, I'm going to rant for a little bit, because I think you're right, Jesse. Like, especially with the internet the way it is, like, E3 needs to change. And I think I've mentioned this last year, but it's like, especially this year, I own an effing PlayStation 4, you guys. I have the future, like, next to my TV. Why do I not have E3 demos on my PS4? Why do I not have all of the coverage of E3 easily, like, accessible on my PS4? I got on the other day just to watch at least some of the trailers and stuff, because I've been really bad about trying to see that stuff.
Yeah.
And the PlayStation, I've never really messed with it, but like the PlayStation 4 interface, as far as like that type of stuff, is crap. Because you go to like the E3 section, and just got like a handful of trailers, but they're just like, so I want to see The Witcher 3, because that's like my most anticipated game, like, from this show. And so I click on it, and it starts, well, actually I don't even click on it, I just move over to The Witcher 3 trailer, it starts auto-playing. But there's no way to put it into full screen, and since it's not the thing on the front page, it's also in a much smaller box than the Call of Duty Advanced Warfighter thing next to it. So I was watching this itty bit, like, I may as well, I could have just got on my laptop and done the same thing. But it's like, I have a PlayStation 4 hooked up to a 42-inch, like, HD TV. Why can't I look at it like that? And it's like, and here's the thing is that, I've been to a lot of E3s, and I went back at, at the height of the insanity, when there were like, way too many people there, and all the swag was, just like insane. But like, back then, you would come out of there with actual demo discs for like a lot of games, especially Sony. Sony would do a lot, like most of their first party stuff in demo discs that you could just take from their booth. And they were the exact same builds that were at the E3 show floor. And you got to think, like back then, it cost money to press discs. It cost money to print the packaging for those and manufacture all of that. How much easier is it to just like let me download, the demo for, I don't know. I don't even know what was playable at the show floor, but you know what I mean. Like, let us play some of this stuff. We have the means to do it now. And sure, it's going to be rough around the edges, but all demos are.
You can actually provide. So Julian, you were at some of the older ones. I've been at E3, 09, 08, and 09.
Right after they went back to the normal format, right?
Correct. So the first year that they went back to the normal format, I went to E3, and I went the year after that. So when I was there, the stability of the builds was horrible. Like, every game that I played, at some point, I saw that machine crash. Were the builds more stable back then? Because it's my impression that the reason they don't do that is because they're actually coming to E3 with this thing that's held together with freaking bubblegum and duct tape. And maybe I'm wrong, but whenever I've been there, I haven't played too many products that look like they're very stable.
I mean, they definitely come in hot. I don't really remember a lot of instances of like things like messing up or anything like that. I don't like. There are definitely like there'd be times where you'd go to like a smaller booth and it'd be like, oh, like 2 of these stations are down. Mm-hmm. But there was plenty there that was like super playable, and I mean, it was really cool. I was thinking about this today, but I remember. You guys remember like those EA Lord of the Rings games, like the action ones?
Yeah.
Like they did Two Towers and Return of the King?
Yeah, they did for the movies, yeah.
Yeah. I think it probably would have been No, it would have been Two Towers, so it would have been the first one. And like I was in the EA booth and I was just like, I was waiting to play, but like this dev had come out of nowhere and like he had this burned disc and he just like threw it into like one of the PlayStation 2s and it was just like this cutscene that they had just finished. And it was the actual, it was the you shall not pass scene with the Balrog. And I was there, and like one of the EA reps was like, "Hey, this guy's filming," and he's like, "Oh, it's okay." But like I was like, "That's really awesome! Like this is like hot off the presses. Like nobody outside of the development team has seen this yet," and I thought that was really nifty. But yeah, I mean, I always came away from the older shows really satisfied with what I had played. I don't really recall like a lot of times of like things just being straight up broken, but
there's a lot of that, and an astounding amount of that, I'd say, when I was there, where it was just like stuff The only games, honestly, that I didn't see that happen with were Nintendo games. Those are the only ones where it came in and never had any issues. Like I think that they probably produced those things far in advance of actually getting to E3. Like the builds are pretty old.
Which they tell you usually. To their image. That's why.
Yes.
They're very much, and they don't want anything to damage their image. But to kind of get to, as far as the demo thing, I mean, besides, obviously, I think, Julie and I agree, it would be awesome if we were able to get our hands on those. But when's the last time you've seen really that many demos, period? I mean, I remember when I used to get, PlayStation Magazine, and every issue had a demo disc with it that would have just trailers and a couple of demos and stuff like that. It's been a long while since I've really played too many demos on any of my machines. It's something that the industry has kind of gotten away from, because I know that some of them have said that it actually hurts sales as opposed to helps them. And I think that's what you're starting to get away from, people going, it's the same reason why they push pre-order so much now, much more than they used to way back in the day. And they'd have less demos, is because they don't want people kind of having, especially if it's a demo and it might be an imperfect experience, they don't want that to hurt people's perceptions. And they also don't want to be, in the position of the demo's great, but then the game sucks, and then no one trusts them anymore. I think that there's that really tough line, and as a result, we've just seen far less demos available, period. And that's why I don't think we'll ever see that kind of, unless it's a game that's just about to come out,
Right. Yeah. And I mean, I think going back to like, as far as like the stability, like, I think that's a good point, is like, you might have to get them to like send out like slightly older builds or something like that.
Yeah.
And there has been like some research that says that, like you said, Jesse, that, sometimes demos hurt rather than help. But there's been, I know I can speak for myself, there's been plenty of times where there were games that weren't even on my radar that I played the demo of and like couldn't wait for. BioShock is a perfect example. Never had heard of that game. Played the demo because it was like early Xbox 360 days and there wasn't a lot out there. Yeah. Blew my freaking mind, and I showed it to everybody that ever came to my apartment like before that game came out. I was like, you got to see this. This is amazing.
Soul Reaver, the original Soul Reaver. I had played Blood Omen and I was excited about Soul Reaver, but I picked up a copy of a magazine just to play that demo, and God knows how many times I ended up playing that thing, and it was nothing like the end game.
Right.
Which is kind of bizarre because I remember playing it and going, oh, they changed a whole hell of a lot between now and then. But that did help to like kind of save me. And there's a couple other games, yeah, like you said, that I've picked up and all of a sudden been like, you know what, this is a game that'd be worth picking up for. But it's just the climate's changed. People, they don't want you to have these demos. I mean, you know, they're really, and also part of it's because I think they're also in the development phase where they're releasing more imperfect products because they can patch it afterwards.
Yeah.
Whereas before you couldn't do this.
You know, I think that it's a little bit of the forbidden fruit thing too, right? So like everybody's out in LA playing these like super exclusive games, and it like it makes them so much. It's like the game could suck, but it's like, man, I wish I was there playing that. Like, I think it hypes the game up. It makes it even better than it really is. And if you had access to that, I don't know if it would have the same effect. Like, I don't know if E3 would have that same magic.
Would you want to go to E3 if you could play the demos from home? Think about it. I mean, you don't have to stand in line. You can play the demo as many times as you want. You get all the reveals already, because I'm convinced that watching them streaming on TV is pretty much just as good as sitting in a crowded theater. Watching that stuff, it's kind of like, well, you know, they need to keep that mystique of E3, which is why they still have as many closed door sessions as they do, because I hate that. Like, no, we're gonna hear 2 weeks, 3 weeks from now all this the couple of more reveals and stuff like that you know no one got to see because they all happened behind closed doors. But
that stuff kills me. Oh, God.
I think they need to scale E3 down. I think it needs to become more of a media blitz and stuff like that. And, you know, maybe the public does need to be pulled out of it a little more. And I know that doesn't sound like fun, but not a lot of people get to go anyways. Pull it out. Kind of pull in Julian's idea of allowing people to have demos to certain games and stuff like that were shown at E3 and be able to stream more of it. It's part of the interconnected world we live in. You know, an in-person event becomes less important.
You know, I thought Nintendo actually really hit a home run this year in terms of their presence at E3. So, you know, obviously they did the Direct, which was a little bit on the short side, mostly because they have no third-party support whatsoever. But, you know, the Treehouse Live was incredible. So, you know, Julian, I don't know if you watched the Treehouse Live at all, but they really managed, I felt, to capture kind of like the presence of E3. If you sat there and watched it, like you could hear the people around you. There's like, you know, a bunch of big people from Nintendo stopping by their booth, doing these recordings, showing off these games. So like if you're sitting there watching it, you're getting a really, really good look actually of all these different parts of the games that they weren't showing on the show floor, didn't show in the Nintendo Direct. They debuted like a few games during the Treehouse Live. That they didn't show off in the Direct. Like it just felt like they kind of kept the hype rolling throughout the entire show by having that kind of presence there. And it, you know, as someone who's been there a couple times, like I really felt like, man, I have this, you know, Treehouse Live going on in the background. I got my headphones on. Yeah, I'm sitting in the office at work, but like I feel like it feels like I'm at E3. It kind of captured that in a sense, and that was really cool. I'm actually looking forward to them doing that again, and I hope that Sony and Microsoft kind of do something similar, because I'd love to be able to tune in and see stuff from some of their first party teams being showed off in depth.
Yeah, I didn't get to watch much of that, or really any of that stuff. Like I heard all about it, and I think it's a good idea. I'm not too keen on the whole, like, let's unveil, or, you know, really, like, kind of unveil games for the first time on this streaming thing. Like, why not do it when all eyes are on you during your actual, like, presentation, and then just show more of it at the stream? But I will say that, like, you know, on our Nintendo part of the specials, I had kind of poo-pooed the graphics of Xenoblade Chronicles Because I mean
that looked terrible in the direct. Terrible.
Right. And JD was like, no, you need to watch like the stream. And sure enough, I watched the stream, and like the actual like gameplay looked great. Yeah. I mean that looked like a really beautiful, HD RPG on the Wii U, and it's like, okay, like they maybe should have shown that.
Yeah, they should have. That was a really terrible trailer for that game. The one that they showed last year was actually way better than the one that they showed this year. So I don't know who curated that content, but that was a mistake. But I mean, yeah, if you didn't watch the stream, you definitely missed good stuff. And hell, even right after the direct ended, they like did a sizzle reel on all these indie games that are coming to the Wii U, kind of like we saw from Sony and Microsoft. And it's like, well, why wasn't that in the conference?
Yeah.
Why did they announce Fantasy Life right after? Why did they announce Phoenix Wright versus Professor Layton right after? Why did they announce Mario Party 10 right after? It was like, within minutes of that direct ending, they dropped like 5 announcements. And it's like, well, that was probably not a good idea. But, I think with a little bit more refinement, next year they'll probably really, really hit that one out of the park again, if they can manage to capture that same spirit that they did this year. So that was probably, and if there's one thing that I could pick out and say definitively, like, I think that was what made E3 for me. It was just like almost feeling that presence again, that it made it feel closer to home than it has before.
Definitely. Are you back, Jesse?
I'm back.
Yay!
All right.
Risen again. You can't get rid of me. I'm like herpes.
Nice.
Yep.
That's the outtake.
Just when you think that I'm out, come back.
All right, so I'll just figure out something. So yeah, we had some little technical snafus, but we're back.
Yep.
Jesse, I don't know how much you caught, but Nick had been kind of talking about how Nintendo had been able to handle like the streams and stuff like that, to their benefit.
Yeah, and I agree, and I caught most of that before I got booted. But I did like how they like you were saying, Julian. I think that they should have put more kind of reveals in their actual presentation. Like last year, they did the same thing. The Wonderful 101 was revealed afterwards in an interview instead of their main presentation, which seemed odd because it was kind of a big deal. That they had
arguably one of the cooler games that they had last year at the show. So
yeah, and that's why, like, even with this other thing with they had Project Steam, which was revealed not even the same day; it was revealed the next day. And to me, I finally got to see some of the footage today, and I'm like, that's actually a pretty interesting game. That's something that I could actually kind of like, and I wasn't sure why they needed to have. They couldn't reveal it and then do the developer roundtable afterwards, to answer more questions about it, because I think that would have been cool. But otherwise, I like the format of we're going to show you a bunch of cool stuff. You're going to be able to go ahead and then we're going to go ahead in this other program that takes place after it and the next day, all during E3. We're going to show you demos, and we're just going to have our live streaming pretty much throughout the day, and you're going to be able to just jump in and catch something. And they were pretty good about keeping people informed with Twitter what was coming up next. There was times when I was like, oh, look, they're going to show up Bayonetta 2. Let me jump on. So that way I can go ahead and check out what they're doing, because I wasn't necessarily interested in the rest of this stuff. So I really did dig the format, and I think it really helps for, I've never been to E3, and you guys both have, and I've never had the experience of going to E3. So it kind of helps to bring that kind of experience to me, even though I haven't been, and and I'm not there now. So I thought it was a cool way, and it in terms of technology, Nintendo's always usually, it seems like they're always behind, but I think in this particular instance, they're using the technology better than their counterparts in Sony and Microsoft or Ubisoft or EA, whoever it may be. So I dug it.
Yeah. And actually, if I could, so Jim Sterling, who does a lot of different things on the internet, I'm sure people are familiar with him. So he actually tweeted, Nintendo Treehouse is what happens when a publisher is confident and proud of its games and doesn't need to show CGI lies for 5 minutes. And I thought that really rung true and was a pretty potent quote. So, to me, the Nintendo's Treehouse showing showed a lot of confidence, which I thought was really important for them at this show. They were having fun with the games that they were showing. They were showing very, very in-depth looks at all of them. They had, the hosts were a little toolish.
They were. They certainly were.
But they had the actual guy, like Miyamoto was on there a number of times, Reggie was on there a number of times, all of like the development leads and the producers and the directors on those games were showing up and actually playing them and demoing them and showing how you play them and kind of the depth to them. And so I just thought that really exuded a lot of confidence in not only the products but their team, and I just thought it was really cool. It was kind of like something I've never seen at E3 before, so it really resonated with me.
Yeah, and it took attention away from the other guys. Because it was on, I was watching that instead of paying attention to what Sony or Microsoft was doing. And so I actually had more focus on Nintendo through E3 than I did any other company. Even though I think the other guys showed off some good stuff, there was some, big games. There's a lot of cool stuff and stuff I would have liked to have seen more of, like Bloodborne. I would have definitely loved to have seen more on Bloodborne.
Man,
now that I have seen footage from it, there's a trailer that was out there today that maybe not on the internet anymore. That game made me excited. Having seen it out in action, it's a more fast-paced Dark Souls, and that makes me feel good because that's why I always died in Dark Souls. Now it looks like I could be rewarded for playing that way. I would have liked to see more Bloodborne. I would like to see Far Cry. I saw a decent amount of, and I was okay with that. But I would have liked to have seen a little bit more of No Man's Sky, so I can see exactly a little bit more about how that game was actually going to work. There's a bunch of stuff out there that I wish I could have seen more of, and the Treehouse version of it, like Julian, I heard you saying obviously before, that when you saw the Nintendo Direct on Xenoblade Chronicles X, the trailer did look kind of like crappy. I was like, this is very Japanese. This is very Macross.
Well, not just that, but it felt like a very Japanese PlayStation 2 era.
It did. It did.
There's something about those character models up
Plastic
close.
dolls is what, like kind of if anyone's seen the Devil's Third trailer, that also suffered from that. I think. But then seeing it in action and getting the opportunity to be able to see that, all of a sudden I was like, oh, okay, this looks great. This looks fantastic. It's something I could actually get behind. And I was able to do that with a lot of the other games. I wasn't able to do that as a result.
That's another weird one that Nintendo didn't mention in their Direct, and I don't know why. So, whether or not Devil's Third wound up looking as great as people might have hoped it would look, like, it's got a huge name behind it, from the creator of Ninja Gaiden, and whatever, and they could have really played that up a little bit more. And instead, it was just like, hey, by the way, did you guys hear Devil's Third is exclusive to Wii U? It was just like,
that was very much like after effect. Yeah, it was like after the thing. Like I saw just tweets of, oh, by the way, the guy that brought us Dead or Alive Beach Volleyball now has a game coming out exclusively on the Wii U, and. But after I saw it, I kind of understand why. I think the announcement itself is kind of a big deal. Like, Devil's Third, that's an exclusive. Yay for Nintendo. But like I said, when I saw it, I'm like, yeah, I get why they didn't highlight this game, because it doesn't look good. It doesn't. It might end up being great, but it does not look good.
It looks wacky in Japanese, and that's.
Yeah, but it looks wacky Japanese and shitty. It doesn't look like wacky Japanese and like Lollipop Chainsaw.
Yeah,
wacky Japanese and fun.
God Hand looks wacky Japanese and shitty too, but that game's awesome. I don't know. I think your mileage may vary on how much you'll enjoy that game, depending on your preferences.
And E3 is
that's probably a game
very
I'll
much
wind
a
up enjoying.
Yeah,
it is.
Well, it's. I find it very interesting that all three companies trotted out like some like uber Japanese like exclusive game that I don't think anybody's going to buy. So for Microsoft, it was Phantom Dust, and it's like I'm not the only person who said it, because I was also on the Giant Bomb where someone said only 3 people bought that game, so why make a big deal out of it?
Yeah.
But then you had Sony with a Suda51 game, and I mean, say what you will about Suda51 if you like him or not, but his games do not sell.
No, they don't. And I like Pseudo 51 games. And you're right. The Phantom Dust one cracked me up because I saw a tweet on the Phantom Dust reveal, and it says now Nick Cave in the bad seeds, because the guy looks the character that looked exactly like Nick Cave. And how many people saw that and went, "That's a sequel"? Had no
what's Phantom
clue. Dust? Yeah, what's Phantom Dust? And that was one of those really bizarre, game doesn't deserve sequel, game gets sequel, Microsoft touts it out like it's going to win Japan suddenly, and that was very bizarre. They kind of also with the Platinum with what is it, Scalebound. That one also I think was their other majorly Japanese thing. That one's a little better because Platinum Games has at least a reputation, and people will be like, okay, that's going to be a decent game. But again, Platinum doesn't sell games really that well either. As much as I love those guys, Bayonetta didn't sell all that well. Metal Gear Rising, Revengeance, probably the best-selling game that they have. But that's more based off of the name, I think, than the fact that Platinum made it.
Yeah, if that didn't have Metal Gear, that game would have sold just as shitty as everything else they make.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Which is a shame because, like you said, I mean, their games are amazing.
They do. They make really great games, totally underrated in a commercial sense. I think they're rated just like where they should be in a critical sense. Their games always get good ratings. It's just that they're more niche in appearance and playability, I think. But yeah, I mean, they didn't trot anything out, and it is funny, like you said, they had their token Japanese game, they're Japan's still important when it comes to game design, but that was it. And there was a very big lack, and we kind of mentioned this before the talk. Squaresoft wasn't even there.
Oh my goodness, so disappointing. Because obviously, I'm Mr. Final Fantasy at Pixelbit, so that goes without saying that I really wanted to see Final Fantasy 15 there. But on top of that, I've actually really liked what they've done with, since they've acquired IDOS. And so, I was happy to hear that there's this Tomb Raider sequel, because I really did like the Tomb Raider reboot. But, what's that?
The dumb name, Rise of the Tomb Raider. I wanted to go and slap whoever came up with that name.
Yeah.
Hey, but they're also making a sequel to, what was it, Guardian of Light?
That was also surprising.
Yeah,
yes, that game was awesome. That co-op game, the top-down one. Yeah, that was a great game.
And isn't that support up to 4 people now or something like that? That's what I heard. So that's going to be
nice.
Up to 4 players or something like that. So
I only wanted to play that game when they released the Kane and Raziel.
I'm more excited now. That game was pretty great.
Yeah, but then, but no Hitman, no Deus Ex, which I thought for sure Deus Ex would be there because...
I was surprised Deus Ex wasn't. Hitman doesn't surprise me. I think that they're taking a quick break from that, or at least from the reveals, because it didn't do as well as they wanted it to. But Deus Ex, lack of that surprised me. At least some kind of reveal, hey, we're working on a Deus Ex game.
Yeah, and also... and also lack of, portable stuff, I thought for sure, Bravely Default did really well for them, but maybe it's too early for them to say, we've got another one, because I don't think they were prepared for that game's success. And then, I think there's supposed to be a expansion for Final Fantasy 14, but they didn't have it ready. Apparently they're not going to show it off until October, and maybe part of it for this E3 is that everybody was just we don't have anything ready. I'm just our pants are down and we're not even on a podcast.
So wasn't this supposed to be the year of games? I kept on hearing last year, it's next year is going to be awesome. All the games. The consoles come out this year and there's going to be a couple of games, but nothing big. And next year, that's going to be Game Central. And this year, I'm fuck, there's nothing here that there's going to be a ton of games next year, unless you really love Call of Duty and Assassin's Creed. That's the only thing, those are the 2 biggest name titles coming out this year at the end of the year. Besides Smash Brothers.
Right. And but I think there is good stuff. There's stuff that I would love to play. Like I said, I loved what I played in Far Cry 3. I just thought it was a little bit too big. But maybe playing Far Cry 4 on an HD, because part of the problem with the 360 version of Far Cry 3 was that it just couldn't handle it. It was a little.
Yeah, no. I played that on PC and it's a much better experience.
Right. And I really do want to play Lord of the Rings, Shadows of Mordor. But then other stuff I'm not a multiplayer guy. I've talked about it a lot on this podcast, but man, Evolve looks cool.
Evolve does look cool.
It looks really nifty. It looks unique. It looks like an actual evolution of like multiplayer. I do it to myself.
You did. You did. The aesthetic of that game is really appealing too. Like it's got a very big, Lovecraftian feel to it, and that's a game that I'm not usually into. There's a couple of games actually that have made me go, multiplayer, because I'm not a big multiplayer. I'm just like, I'm in your camp when it comes to that, Julian. I'm like, I'd rather play either by myself, or if I'm going to play with people, I want them all to be around me and do the local multiplayer thing. But Evolve, Titanfall actually is interesting to me, but that game's already out. But Evolve definitely appeals to me. Even a couple of times we've already brought this up, Splatoon. That game, I was like, that's a game that I could see myself jumping on and having fun with.
That Rainbow Six game looks really good.
Rainbow Six, the game that killed Rainbow Six Patriots, and now we have that because Patriots is dead. If anyone didn't know that, they said that, and
I'm disappointed in that. Yeah. But what they showed, like just the way that like those multiplayer matches are set up, looked like something that I could even get into, and the fact that they're using, that's one of those things where it's like, okay, you're using next gen technology for gameplay purposes, like the way that you can destroy the environment. Like has actual tactical applications, and it's like, okay, that looks really cool. Like I would try that at least.
It's one of those first games that I've looked at and gone, okay, this isn't possible on the last generation of machine. It's not just prettier, because that's what I've seen a lot of this stuff. I'm like, okay, it's prettier, that's great, but show me something that just wasn't possible. And that's one of those games that I think we're starting to get into the realm of, all right, we couldn't have done this on the PS3 or the Xbox 360. It had to have been done on a PC or the next generation systems. And so that was nice seeing something like that for a change, because everything else, like even like the Far Cry 4 doesn't look like, besides the graphics, I'm not seeing anything that makes that couldn't have been done on another machine. I think Assassin's Creed, I believe, is still being released on the PS3 and Xbox 360 Unity.
Well, the one they're showing at E3 is a separate game from the one that's coming out for PS3 and 360. So that they're actually splitting.
They're splitting?
Yeah, but no, I'm glad you brought that up, because man, the 7th generation is like the longest generation in history, and I'll be glad when we can finally like break the shackles, but I still feel like it's probably a good 2 to 3 years out, because the Wii U is technically still, it's got like 1 foot in that generation, but also the PS3 and the 360 just don't want to die, and people would be stupid to not release stuff for that. Yeah, so, absolutely. Like I think the concept of the new Call of Duty is actually kind of cool. I love the Kevin Spacey like story trailer. Like I think the themes of that game are interesting to me, and I'm not burnt out on the series because I don't play them very much. But at the same time, they're making that for last gen also. So we're still at least one game away from seeing next gen Call of Duty.
and maybe this might be the part of that in itself might be the reason why we're seeing so many games that are being pushed off to 2015, because you think of the install base, they're saying a lot of them like, oh, we're pushing it because then it'll look better and stuff like that. Part of me wants to call bullshit on that and say, no, the reason you're doing that, and it's a smart reason, is to make sure that the install base is bigger. Because if you just, especially like say, for example, the Batman game looks great. Arkham Knight, looks great, looks fantastic. But that's a true next gen game. It's not coming out on the 360. It's not coming out on the PS3. It's certainly not coming out on the Wii U. So to release it this winter, when there's not a lot of other stuff that's coming out to force people to buy the systems, would just be bad business. You wait a little bit longer, you wait until more people have the systems, and then you release it so that you can get a greater install base. And this has been that weird generation. It's never been this segregated. It's never been this long in between generations. I feel like the transition period, it's usually been pretty clean. Like you get one winter of kind of mixed, and then you move on. But this year it seems like, I thought we had that last year, and this year we have it again. Yeah,
definitely. 'Cause you got to think 360 came out in 2005, and then in 2006 we got, I believe, Final Fantasy 12 and God of War 2, and the PlayStation 2 was kind of done by then. Obviously there were still sports games and shovelware coming out, but it was obvious by that point. It's like, no, you guys need to move on. It's like we've done the best we can do. But,
absolutely.
I don't know. I guess we should probably like start wrapping up, but like let's throw out like some, because we've been a little bit down on the show other than Nintendo, but like let's throw out like like a couple like really things that we would definitely want to get. I guess probably in 2015 since most of that stuff is delayed, but stuff that made us say like, oh, okay, yeah, and maybe we'll just have final thoughts as well, and then we'll close it out.
All right, Nick, you want to start?
Sure. So I'll pick one from each big publisher. So Sunset Overdrive looked phenomenal. I don't know if we've really talked about that one yet, but man, that game looked great. Just like a ton of fun. I watched some extended gameplay of that with Ted Price. So that one really had me excited. Jesse mentioned it, Bloodborne. Hugely disappointed that they didn't show more of it. But man, I am pumped to see that whenever that's going to get a greater view. And then let's see, Nintendo, there were a lot of things that I was excited about, but, I got to go with Captain Toad. It looks too awesome. I need Captain Toad now.
I'm glad I'm not the only Captain Toad like cheering squad.
No, I think everyone on this podcast is looking forward to the fact that there's a Captain Toad game.
And Yoshi looked good too, which I'm excited for that. So I think that's next year sometime. So Captain Toad because it's coming first. So anyway, those are my three big picks from each one.
Man, trying to think if I can make big picks from each one because there's some that just really disappointed me in terms of what was coming out. But does it have to be coming out this year? Or is
no. I mean, just from the show in general. Yeah.
From the show in general. I'd have to say Bloodborne. I'll follow Nick on that one. That one definitely seemed like definitely piqued my interest because it's I've tried to get into the Demon Souls and Dark Souls games, and I've been kind of frustrated with trying to enjoy myself in those, and this one seems much more tuned to my style of play, so I am excited about that. I might be another game I just throw down in frustration, but who knows? Right now, excited. Bayonetta 2, from what I've seen of that game just keeps on looks smooth, it looks great. I'm stoked that it comes with a modified version of the original, so people who have just been Nintendo fans, and there's plenty of them out there who have never bought another system, can get a chance to play the first one. Plus, it looks like it has some nifty things in it as well. So,
and just to be clear, like they're not going to be playing it to like get caught up on the rich lore of Bayonetta because that story is so bonkers.
No, you can just totally play the game on mute.
Except her voice is really nice.
Yeah, no, it just with heavy metal soundtrack going on in the background. It's a great game. If you like action games, Bayonetta. I mean, Bayonetta is the true successor to the original Devil May Cry games. I mean, really. So that's what you need. So I'm definitely excited for that. Rainbow Six is one that I am. Splatoon as well. There's a couple of games out there. Captain Toad I'm excited for. I'd be dumb to say I wasn't. And I want to say I'm excited for some of like the smaller reveals. Uncharted 4, because it's an Uncharted game and I could like that. Tomb Raider because I really enjoyed the last one, but I haven't seen anything really. So that's pretty much it. I think like it's for me it's hard to get wicked excited about anything unless I know it's coming out very soon because I haven't really seen anything. So mixed bag on my path, but I think I named off more games than Nick did.
So, I could name a lot more. I tried to.
But yeah, I mean, there's good games. I want to say like there's not, but yeah. Oh, and I don't know the Rainbow Curse, Kirby's Rainbow Curse. That's a 2015 game, but that game, the fact that came out of nowhere for me and that looked awesome. So there you go.
Yeah, I mean, I've definitely mentioned, a few already. I mean, Dragon Age is probably like the top of my list because I have a huge soft spot in my heart for the first two games. Even the second one, even though it's not nearly as good as the first, but I like that universe. I like, the decisions that I get to make in BioWare games. Witcher 3, of course, is like, that was probably one of my favorite stage demos.
I forgot about that.
Yeah, that looks great.
That Griffin hunt, man. So definitely put that up on there. I didn't care about it when it was announced, and I didn't even care about it at the show, but I talked to a coworker who got into the alpha test, and I gotta say I'm getting a little excited about Destiny, because I'm hearing, because when it was first shown, they were like, well, it's Borderlands with like a Halo control scheme basically, and that's kind of cool, but I'm getting more of a Mass Effect-y vibe from it as far as like the creation mode, and like apparently you actually get like armor and stuff for your character, which even though like it's a first-person game, like one of the things that bored me about Borderlands was, oh well, my character looks the same all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And like I kind of want, I love loot. I love the idea of like putting on like big shoulder pads and shiny boots and stuff like that. So if they throw that into Destiny, then that's pretty cool. I'm probably going to end up pre-ordering it pretty soon. Let's see. I'm with you, Jesse. Even though I'm not a multiplayer guy, I really would like to play that Rainbow Six game. I think it looks pretty inspired. I'm hoping that there's more to it. If it's just you trying to like rescue a person, but who almost feels like they're nothing more than a flag, that's a little bit weird. Where it's kind of weird. It's like, oh, you kind of pick up the hostage and extract the hostage, like almost like she's an item. Like that's a little weird. But and of course, Nintendo-wise, Captain Toad, Splatoon. I was a little disappointed there wasn't a lot of 3DS stuff, because I really have been digging my 3DS, and I think that they kind of dropped the ball on that. But Project Steam, even though I haven't really looked at it, just knowing that it's a strategy RPG from the people who made Fire Emblem and Advance Wars, it's enough to sell me on that. So, totally looking forward to that. And it was kind of a stealth announcement, but I'm glad that Square Enix finally announced that Final Fantasy Type 0, nay, Final Fantasy Agito 13, as it used to be called, is finally coming out to the States.
It's still a thing.
It's still a thing, and it's probably still going to come out before Final Fantasy 15.
Maybe.
Well, this game's at least finished. So,
people have played it before.
Yeah.
This game does exist somewhere.
So yeah, and there's a handful of others, but like as much as Batman is like gorgeous and everything like that, I don't know if I've got it in me to play another Batman game until they like fundamentally change the way that game plays. And I'm not talking about the combat. The combat, there's no need to touch that. The combat's fantastic. But just as far as like how the game progresses, and it always seems, especially in the last two games, that it's just constant like things pulling you in a myriad of directions, and there's no real like focus to it. And I would love, and this is kind of an open world problem in general, but I'd kind of like to see them try to change the way things are done. Where, I think it's kind of okay if you miss out on content, like if maybe you just couldn't get there in time, and it's like, and the game just keeps on moving, instead of like this weird thing where somebody is calling for Batman's help, but you can totally like spend 5 hours doing something else and then come back and they're still calling for Batman's help.
Oh, like, people would hate that, Julian.
I know they would. Dead
Rising, right? Everyone complains about that in Dead Rising, no matter what.
Yeah, I know. It's just like, I would kind of like, because and this is, I have to mention it because like they announced the Mass Effect even though they didn't have crap to show. But the first teaser trailer of Mass Effect 1 was this really amazing CG trailer where it was all of these distress signals coming in on the Normandy, and Commander Shepard walking up to the console and switching it off because they were already landing on a planet and they just couldn't get to it. And I was like, that would be an amazing game if like there were just certain things that, if you didn't manage your time well, or maybe, there was just like too many things going on at once and you can't be the savior for everybody. Like, people need to play with that. I think there's a lot of opportunity there but like you said, Nick, like people want to be able to 100% everything.
Yes.
I blame achievements.
Yeah.
I do too.
But I don't blame you, listeners, for being ready to switch off the show, because we've been going for a while, and you already got like another like 3 hours of this total earlier in the week, and my voice is starting to leave me.
If I can interject one thing, since we mentioned time management, where was my Persona 5? There's no Persona 5, and that really made me sad.
I think it was too. I think it's too far out, but they did have.
Maybe.
I think they had Persona 4 Arena, and they had that dancing game.
They did.
Yeah.
They did.
The dancing.
No, no care from me on those, but so Persona 5 is yet another 2015 game, so I guess we'll see when we're going to see that one. But anyway, I was hoping we'd at least see something about it, but there was nothing.
I don't think it's really the right venue anyway. I think it probably TGS.
Maybe,
You'll see a pretty big reveal, because it'd also be, that's end of summer, So it gives them another like few months to like make stuff in that game.
True.
So, and I guess, I mean, do we want to pour one out for Last Guardian? Can we officially say that doesn't exist?
It's not dead yet. It's not dead yet. They
It's
keep
never
telling me.
existed. There's just that one screenshot with the thing, and that was the Last Guardian. That's it. They made that one picture, and that was the entire game.
Well, they have the trailer, but
oh yes, I forgot.
It's like that and Final Fantasy 15. It's like I have no idea even what the core like game mechanics of those two games are. Like, what do you do in Last Guardian? Like, do you ride the monster? Do you try to like find ways for the monster to like get through areas, sort of like Majin in the Forsaken Kingdom? Like, what do you do? What's going on there? Like, nobody knows. It's frustrating.
It's frustrating. It is, but it's not dead. They keep on saying it's not dead.
And it's not going to be as good as everybody's hoping it is. There's no way that it possibly could be.
It'll be a PS5 game.
It's best off everyone stops caring about the game. That would probably be best.
Stop asking about it.
Right.
Stop asking about that in Mother 3.
But if you don't believe, then you'll just die like fairies.
Vaporware.
I think actually what I had heard is that it's coming out the same day that StarCraft Ghosts.
Okay.
Oh man. Brain fart. And there's a bunch of other ones. Oh, and Huxley. It's going to come out the same day as Huxley.
And Duke Nukem Forever, right?
Well, that will be its fate.
Probably. Very, very likely at this point. That's what makes it so sad.
And yet, for some reason, I own the collector's edition of that game.
Mm-hmm.
So no. Oh, no, you don't. No.
I do. I was hoping that there'd be some sort of really cool, like, archival, like, history of the game in there, but all they had was a timeline, which revealed that game was content complete 4 years before it was released. So.
Yeah.
And this show is content complete. Yes.
Success.
Another segue into the conclusion. So, Nick, Jesse, thank you so much for being on the show. It's been a lot of fun.
Absolutely. We'll have to do this again.
Yes.
Yeah.
Next time earlier than next E3.
and I know for a fact that Michael 117 is like splooging himself for this episode. So this one's for you, Michael.
I know.
Wait, gotta mention PGA Tour golf because I know that's really
the truth. Yeah, that he was starting to creep me out with his cryptic messages and comments, but then I finally watched the trailer, and how does EA only show 30 seconds of that? Because holy crap.
I'm surprised that hasn't been memed the shit out of. The fact that, because golf matters. That was just so crazy.
Just real quick, but I gotta say, because it looked like it was like PGA in like Battlefield. So it'd be really cool if there was like a PGA in Mass Effect and a PGA in Dragon Age. You know, like if they had courses from all the EA properties. Like if there's one with necromorphs in it, like that'd be really cool. Like the sky's the limit with that. I would buy that golf game, and I hate golf. Let's make it happen.
I think I'd have to buy that too. That sounds pretty awesome.
Yeah. Alrighty, so I think we're going to go ahead and wrap up. Again, guys, thank you for coming along, and listeners, thank you for sticking in there. Again, I didn't really get a lot of feedback on these episodes, so, you know, comment, let us know what you're thinking, or just point me to some of your blogs and stuff like that in the comments. I'd like to hear from you. And we will be back in a couple weeks with like probably just us talking about what we've been doing because it's been a while. But yeah, so tune in for that. And for myself, Nick, and Jesse, thanks for listening, and keep it pantsless, Internet. Goodbye.